My name is Daniel Harrison, and I'm 48 years old, my hair showing the first hints of gray. For 15 years, I'd been a senior vice president of sales at Apex Timberworks, a leading commercial millwork supplier in Denver, Colorado. My business card declared my title, but my true function was far more fundamental. I kept the business afloat. I personally oversaw our top 10 accounts. These weren't simply clients. They were relationships forged over countless conversations, numerous dinners, and a decade and a half of proactive problem solving. I knew their children's names, their hobbies, their favorite vacation spots. They contacted me before even their own internal teams when a critical issue arose. An expensive old-fashioned relic who should be grateful for continued employment. "Is there a timetable for this transition?" I inquired, maintaining an even tone. "Effective immediately," she responded with a curt smile. "We need everyone fully committed to this new strategic direction." I closed the file, rose, and extended my hand. "Thank you for your candor." Her smile faltered. She'd anticipated resistance, negotiations, perhaps even desperation. Instead, she received a handshake and a composed departure. Later that afternoon, I observed her watching from her office as I gathered a few personal belongings into a box. Nothing extravagant. A framed photograph of my daughters at their college graduations. A pen set from a valued client. An old sales achievement award. On my way out, I exchanged a knowing glance with Thomas, our chief financial officer, a colleague since the company's inception. His eyes spoke volumes. This wasn't simply cost-cutting, it was a calculated effort to eliminate me. In the parking lot, I eschewed any dramatic displays. I calmly placed the box in my trunk, adjusted my rearview mirror, and drove away, carrying 15 years of cultivated client relationships that Amelia had just unwittingly gifted to our competitors. I had built that sales division from the ground up. When I joined Apex Timberworks in 2008, we were a regional player generating $8 million annually. By the previous year, my team had propelled sales to $73 million, with my personal accounts contributing over $12 million to that total. Our relationship surpassed transactions. Stricter travel budgets, multiple approvals required for client entertainment, and my weekly meetings with the executive team gradually decreased to monthly. Then, as needed, we're streamlining, Amelia explained during one of our earlier meetings. Nothing personal. But it became intensely personal when she began scheduling calls with my key accounts without my knowledge, questioning discounts I'd negotiated years ago that had maintained client loyalty despite multiple price increases, and suggesting my team needed new perspectives, promptly bringing in two of her previous colleagues as regional managers. Thomas attempted to caution me during our quarterly budget review. "They're closely scrutinizing the sales compensation structure," he whispered, glancing nervously towards the door, especially the long-standing arrangements. I was the only one left with the legacy arrangement. A week before the fateful meeting, I saw Amelia having lunch with Grace, my newest hire. They were engaged in an intense conversation. Upon noticing me entering the restaurant, Grace quickly looked away, while Amelia waved casually, as if our encounter was completely unexpected. Later, Grace avoided my gaze when I questioned the lunch. "Just getting to know the team," she mumbled. At that moment, I knew what was coming, not the specifics, but the overall direction. After Amelia's announcement that evening, I sat in my home office reviewing the last decade's sales reports. 15 years of consistent growth, 15 years of transforming Apex Timberworks into an industry leader, 15 years of loyalty repaid, with a dismissive "your package is outdated." My phone vibrated. A text from Michael Davis, purchasing director at Summit Commercial, our largest account. "Heard rumors about major changes at Apex. Everything all right? Call me." Michael and I had collaborated for 12 years. I'd helped him through 2 company reorganizations, a divorce, and his son's college applications. We were more than business partners, we were friends. I poured a generous measure of bourbon and called him Michael. He answered immediately. "What in the world is going on over there?" "I received a call from a woman claiming she's taking over our account," he continued. "That would be Amelia Cartwright, our new sales director," I replied, maintaining composure. She began discussing revising our pricing structure and implementing a new vendor management system. Michael's voice tightened. "We have a contract, and we have established processes that work. I don't need someone dictating how I manage my suppliers." I paused, allowing the silence to hang. "Daniel." Michael lowered his voice. "Are you staying? Because if you're not, we need to talk." In that instant, everything became crystal clear. My worth wasn't defined by my title or sales figures. It resided in 15 years of trust, 15 years of proactive problem solving. 15 years of relationships that could easily transition with me. I'm exploring my options, I replied cautiously.
Consider this, he said.
If you find another opportunity, call me first before I have to deal with Harvard Barbie again. After the call, I composed an email to David Miller at Peak Supply Group. We'd met at an industry conference last year, and he'd mentioned their desire to expand their commercial millwork division. I didn't send it immediately, saving it as a draft. The following morning, I received calls from 3 more clients, all voicing similar concerns. Amelia was already reaching out, making changes, disrupting relationships she didn't comprehend. I returned to the office one last time to finish clearing my desk. As I packed, Thomas discreetly slipped me a folded sheet of paper. Your client retention figures, he whispered, and their average annual spending. Thought you might need them. I nodded, understanding his unspoken message. He knew my true value, even if Amelia didn't. That afternoon I finalized my resignation letter, sent the email to David at Peak, and contacted my attorney to review my non-compete agreement. I discovered what I'd suspected: it pertained to products, not clients. I couldn't sell competing millwork for 6 months, but nothing prevented me from maintaining my existing relationships. Senior Vice President of Business Development with complete autonomy to build my own division. We want your expertise, Daniel, David stated during our final meeting. You understand what works in this industry. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The next day, I contacted Amelia to discuss my resignation and transition plan. I suggested remaining for 2 weeks to ensure a seamless handover of my accounts. That won't be necessary, she responded dismissively. We're already in communication with your clients. Grace will manage the transition. These relationships are intricate, I explained. Each account has nuances that require time to understand. We have all your notes in the CRM, she interrupted. And frankly, your approach was rather antiquated. We're implementing a more data-driven client management strategy. I could have argued, but to what end? She'd made her judgment the moment she arrived. HR will handle your exit paperwork, she concluded. Please return all company property by the end of the week. 3 days later, I met Michael from Summit Commercial for lunch. He hadn't responded to Grace's calls, and she'd escalated to his supervisor. Your replacement sent me a client satisfaction survey with 48 questions, Michael said, shaking his head. Then she followed up with a presentation on their new customer success metrics. I don't need metrics. I need someone who understands our business. I nodded. Maintaining neutrality. I wouldn't disparage Apex. Where are you going next? Michael asked directly. I'm joining Peak as SVP of Business Development. Michael raised an eyebrow. Interesting. They've been trying to secure our business for years. I took a sip of water. I start in 2 weeks. Well, Michael said, sliding his business card across the table. Call me when you're settled. The next day, I received a formal letter from Apex's legal department, reminding me of my non-compete obligations and warning against improper solicitation of Apex clients. The letter listed every major account I had managed. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Robert Lee, CEO of North Star Construction, another top 10 client. Daniel, what the hell? This new woman is trying to alter our payment terms. Says our account structure needs optimization. We've been on net 45 for a decade. I'm no longer with Apex, I replied carefully. Yeah, I figured that out when she called. Where did you land? I gave him a concise overview of Peak. Before I could finish, he interrupted. They handle the same product lines. Similar, yes. Good. Call me Monday. I want to discuss options. Complaints about Amelia's approach, inquiries about my new position, and requests to connect once I started. I hadn't solicited a single client. They were actively seeking me out. On my final official day, Amelia called unexpectedly. I understand you've been in contact with Apex clients, she said, her voice tight. I've spoken with several individuals, yes. Many are personal friends after 15 years. We consider those proprietary business relationships, she stated. Any attempt to redirect that business would constitute a breach of your separation agreement. I understand my obligations, I replied evenly. Good, she snapped. Because the last thing you want is a legal battle with Global Woods attorneys. After hanging up, I forwarded the call recording to my attorney. The same attorney who confirmed my non-compete only restricted me from selling millwork for 6 months. Nothing prevented me from selling other construction supplies to those same clients through Peak. Nothing prevented those clients from choosing to follow me. Amelia had just revealed her greatest fear. She was beginning to grasp the consequences of pushing me out. My first day at Peak began with a revelation. We've been trying to penetrate Apex's market for years, David admitted during our morning meeting. Your predecessor spent 18 months courting Summit Commercial without progressing beyond their purchasing department. Michael Davis doesn't trust easily. I agreed. David leaned forward. Here's what I don't understand. Apex's client retention rate is nearly 95%, while the industry average hovers around 72%. What's their secret? I almost laughed. Their secret was sitting right in front of him. It's not a secret, it's relationships, I explained. When Arthur ran the company, he understood that contracts might retain clients on paper, but relationships maintain loyalty when competitors undercut your prices. David nodded slowly. And the new management doesn't grasp that. The new management views relationships as inefficient. Amelia prefers automated systems, not personal calls. Before I could elaborate, my assistant interrupted with an urgent message. Thomas, Apex's CFO, wished to meet. Client transition strategy, Harrison Accounts. The plan detailed how they would transfer my former clients to Grace and 2 new account managers. It included talking points to address potential objections regarding my departure and a relationship reclamation timeline. But what truly caught my attention was the financial projection, indicating my clients represented not $12 million in annual revenue, as I'd always estimated, but $17.3 million, nearly 24% of Apex's total revenue. They never told you what your book was truly worth, Thomas said quietly. Arthur knew, but after the acquisition he remained silent. Why are you showing me this? Thomas took a long drink, because what they're doing isn't right, and because Amelia is already missing her forecasts. She told the board it's temporary disruption during the transition, but the numbers don't lie. He tapped the folder. She's already lost North Star, hasn't she? I neither confirmed nor denied. Client decisions were no longer my responsibility. It's going to worsen, Thomas continued. She's implementing price increases across all legacy accounts next month. The board approved it based on her analysis that we've been underpricing the market for years. Now I understood. Amelia hadn't just wanted me gone to save on my compensation. She'd viewed my client relationships as obstacles to her aggressive revenue strategy. With me removed, she could raise prices, change terms, and implement new systems to extract greater short-term profit from relationships I'd spent years cultivating. There's something else, Thomas added, his voice dropping. They've been auditing your expense reports for 3 years, searching for irregularities. They won't find any. I know that, but they're constructing a narrative. If clients start leaving, they need someone to blame. As Thomas departed, he hesitated. I'm updating my resume, just thought you should know. Driving home, a strange calm settled over me. I wasn't just learning what Amelia thought of me, I was learning what Apex had truly thought of me all along. My value had been evident in their numbers, but absent from my compensation. They'd happily benefited from my relationships, while quietly plotting to extract more profit once I was gone. The truth wasn't merely that Amelia had underestimated me. Apex had undervalued me for years. Unexpected price increases, inflexible new policies, and a lack of personalized service. By the end of my second month, 4 of my former top 10 accounts had transferred their business to Peak. I ensured each transition was seamless. My team worked weekends to guarantee perfect initial orders. I personally visited job sites to oversee deliveries. Word spread throughout the industry that following Daniel Harrison to Peak meant superior service at competitive prices. Then my phone rang. It was Amelia. We need to talk, she said, her usual confidence replaced by thinly veiled panic. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop near Peak's office. Amelia arrived 15 minutes early, already sipping a latte when I arrived. This has to stop, she stated without preamble.
What exactly? You know what? Poaching our clients.
I stirred my coffee. I haven't solicited a single Apex client.
Bullshit.
She snapped, then corrected herself. 4 major accounts have left us in 8 weeks.
All of them mentioned you by name. Clients make their own decisions.
Amelia leaned forward.
We can make this easy or difficult, Daniel. Easy means you back off, and we don't pursue legal action for breach of contract.
There's no breach, I replied calmly.
My non-compete prevents me from selling millwork for 6 months.
Peak's construction supply division doesn't compete with Apex's millwork. Her eyes narrowed. We're exploiting a loophole.
I'm adhering to the precise terms of an agreement your legal team drafted. I took a sip of coffee, Perhaps they should have been more meticulous. The board is asking questions, she admitted, her voice softening, about client retention, about revenue projections. That sounds like an internal Apex matter.
She tried a different tactic. What do you want? A consulting arrangement? A finder's fee for leaving certain accounts alone? I almost laughed. She still didn't understand. I'm not interested in arrangements, I said, standing up. I'm interested in performing my job effectively. The rest takes care of itself. The next day, Michael from Summit Commercial called. Their 3-year contract with Apex was nearing renewal. We're putting it out to bid, he said. Amelia has been calling me daily, offering to beat any competitor's price by 5. That's a good offer, I acknowledged. Is it? Because I'm considering more than price here, Daniel. I need someone who understands our business, someone who answers the phone at 7 p.m. when a project is in trouble. First of many, aiming for 20 new clients by year's end. The wheels were in motion, and Amelia was just beginning to understand the true cost of her miscalculation. $13.7 million in new business, with projections to reach $22 million by year's end. 8 of my former top 10 Apex accounts had followed me to peak. David entered with a bottle of champagne. The board just approved your division expansion plan, he announced. Additional staff, increased marketing budget, everything you requested. As glasses were passed around, my phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. Apex Q3 earnings call in 30 minutes. You might want to listen in. I stepped away from the celebration to join the call. Apex's new CEO, Richard Parker, sounded strained as he addressed investors. While we anticipated some disruption following our strategic restructuring, sales have underperformed against projections. We've experienced unexpected client attrition in our commercial division. An analyst interrupted. Can you quantify that attrition? We're seeing estimates that Apex has lost nearly 20% of its annual revenue in the past 2 quarters. Those numbers are speculative, Richard deflected. We're implementing an aggressive client retention strategy. Is it accurate that your largest account, Summit Commercial, recently signed with Peak Supply Group? Another analyst pressed. The pause was deafening. We're in ongoing discussions with all our key accounts, Richard finally responded. As the call continued, I received an email from Grace, my former hire who'd sided with Amelia. The subject line read, "Any openings at Peak? Apex Timberworks struggles after exodus of key accounts." The article specifically mentioned my move to Peak and the subsequent client migration. It quoted an anonymous Apex employee stating that the company had fundamentally misunderstood the value of its senior sales leadership. I never had to utter a word. The numbers spoke for themselves. Business is built on trust. My assistant buzzed. Amelia Cartwright was here to see me unannounced. I paused, then nodded. Send her in. Amelia looked different, less polished, more weary. Her designer suit had been replaced by something more ordinary. Thank you for seeing me, she said, remaining standing even after I gestured to a chair. What can I do for you? I'm with Hamilton Group now, she explained. Business consulting. I was hoping to get your perspective on Peak's approach to client retention for a case study I'm developing. I almost laughed at the irony. I think you already know my approach. She nodded stiffly. You made a miscalculation at Apex. I did. The market is discussing how you brought down a company without uttering a word, she continued. That's a powerful reputation. I didn't respond. Amelia hadn't come for a case study, she'd come for absolution or reconciliation. I wasn't offering either. After a moment of awkward silence, she placed her business card on my desk. If you ever want to discuss industry trends, I appreciate the offer, I said, standing up. But I'm fully booked these days. After she left, I glanced at the card, then discarded it. Do the work. Keep your promises. Value relationships above transactions. In the end, Amelia had given me an unexpected gift. She'd forced me to prove to myself and everyone observing exactly what 15 years of trust was truly worth.